So, if I could have your attention, I'm going to introduce our speaker for the evening. Her name is Catalina Amparano. I know, that smile. So beautiful. So, Catalina is a mother of 2 children. Christian and Casey, who are here this evening. She says that she learns patience from her son and creativity from her daughter. She moved to San Diego in 2007 from the Imperial Valley area. She's the youngest of 4 girls. One of her sisters is here tonight. She works for Scripps Health Hospital as an analyst for one of their corporate offices. She enjoys playing volleyball. She's also very competitive on the Frisbee field. I know this. I can personally attest because one time we both went to catch the Frisbee at the same time and she ripped it out of my hand. Or I might have ripped it out of her hands. I don't know who ended up. She won. I won, I think, but I was like, whoa, Catalina. Okay. And she says she also enjoys running on good days. And I'd like to say also that I've had the great, in capital letters, the great pleasure of meeting Catalina and her children about a year ago. I will say that Catalina is a ray of sunshine. I don't know how else to put it. Her heart is full, in capital letters, of joy, and it has overflowed into my life. She's been a role model for me of what a beautiful woman is, and I know it overflows onto everyone she meets. It's truly a ripple effect of joy, which has made me certain that it is the God of the universe and nothing else who is in her heart and who adores her. And he is smiling on us tonight as she will share about their love story. Aww. So without further ado, please help me welcome Catalina.
Man, this girl's good with a microphone. My goodness. Thank you all for being here. I'm usually pretty loud, and I don't know how safe it's going to be to have you guys all in the same room with me and a microphone, so please bear with me if I get too loud. But first of all, I'd like to first say congratulations to Sean and on their engagement. The Granny Group does it again.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, camera. Okay. So before we begin, I would like to please start off with a prayer. We're coming up on Pentecost Sunday, so if you please join me in prayer as we begin. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Lord, send the gift of your Spirit to fill this place and myself and the world. Teach me with truth that burns like fire, with beauty that moves me like the wind, and set me free, Lord, free to try new ways of living, free to forgive myself and others, free to laugh and sing, free to lay aside my burden of security, free to join the battle for justice and peace, free to see and listen and wonder again at the gracious mystery of things and persons, free to be, to give, to receive, to rejoice as a child of your Spirit, and Lord, teach me to dance, to turn around and come down where I want to be, in the arms and heart of your people and in you, that I may praise and enjoy you forever. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Oh, thank you for that. Do you guys mind closing the back door? That light is like, that street light's like right by it. Thank you. Perfect timing. Oh. I was just like, it's just a door. more people. No. Yes, this is my family. My son and my daughter, Christian on the right, Casey on the left, and that's me in the middle. I've been truly blessed with these children that God has given me. And of course, every parent's going to say that, but throughout tonight, you'll find out why I feel that way. And hopefully, you'll see why I feel so blessed to have them in my life as my children. So, let us begin. I've been the Mass lead here at Goretti Group for about a year now. And the Goretti Group was an organization when I first came to it and I learned what it did. It was supposed to be inspiring the hearts of people to find authentic, true love. And I didn't know if I was the right person to come here for that because of the past that I had come from. Also, the Goretti Group talks about life-giving love through chastity. Again, something I was just like, I don't know if I'm the right person for this. And also, how we share in the likeness of the Holy Trinity through the sacrament of marriage. Again, I just didn't think that this was the right fit for me. I really wanted to be a part of CYA, yes. Where's Nathan Poe? Yes. I thought it was fun, exciting. I was like, no, I want to do that instead. But I really kept praying about it, and I had my left foot with CYAS and my right foot with Goretti, and I was just asking the Lord, you know what? I'm tired of designing my life. You're just going to have to do this for me. So he did. I came to Goretti with a past that is in stark contrast to everything that it stood for. I've been serving the Goretti Group for a year, and I came with a past that includes divorce, single mother of 2, cohabitation, unchastity. I have to look down because there's a list. Contraception. And I also bought into the whole independence of women. I could do it on my own. I don't need a man. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be happy. And this is just what I wanted to do. And I was going to have no longer people telling me what to do. Yes, I'm the youngest of 4 girls, so I was used to always being told what to do. So how can God say that, or excuse me, how can anyone say that God doesn't have a sense of humor when here I was being asked to lead this organization? And they accepted me with such a warm heart. They were so loving, and I'm going to cry if I look at you, Lisa. They were so loving, so non-judgmental, so open, and just, you can just tell that they really lived the message. They really believed the message. And then a beautiful little Megan comes along, and she is just a firecracker. Oh my goodness. And I just fell in love. I just totally fell in love with their whole organization, and I just began to pray. Just began to pray to ask God, you know, if this is really what he wanted me to do, and if this is the path that he's wanting to take me on. So tonight I'm going to be sharing with you how it is that God came into my life, what my life was without him, the conversion of my heart, and how he did it. In the beginning, no, it's not Genesis. Life starts out simple enough, right? I mean, we want to fall in love, get married. We're just looking for happiness, whatever that may look like. I was 17 when I began my first relationship, and throughout the relationship, we became immediately unchaste. He was someone that I lost my virginity to. He was somebody that I grew up with. Our families knew each other. I felt so comfortable with him. Everything about my life just seemed to fit. But there was something wrong, and I didn't know how to explain it. I didn't know how to talk about it. Being 17, then 18, then 19, I just didn't understand what it was that was off about the whole relationship. So when he proposed to me, I said yes. I was only, I believe, 19, 20 years old. And then during my engagement, I became pregnant, and then I got married at the very young age of 21. I had just turned 21, as a matter of fact. So there I was, walking up to the altar, and I began to shake as soon as I stepped into the church. And I began to cry, and I began to just have a lot of confusion, and I didn't understand why. I didn't understand what was happening to me. I knew that I had already been in a relationship with this man for 3 years. He was the man I lost my virginity to. Our families knew each other. This was perfect. What's wrong with me? What's the matter? Just go through with it. So I did. We were married for 8 years before I filed for divorce. And a divorce that I knew that was going to bring a lot of pain to a lot of people, especially to my children. I hurt my parents, I hurt my ex-husband, I hurt our families, our friends. Everybody was devastated because we were the picture-perfect couple. We were always happy, we were always very much alike. It caused a tremendous amount of pain. My daughter was about 2 years old, and my son was 7 years old. And he knew full well what was happening. And I watched in anguish as I saw the divorce completely tear him apart. He bore it all in silence. My son is a rock. He's very strong. He's always been an old soul. And in a lot of ways, he's been my saving grace. And I'll explain why. So there I was, 28 years old, when everybody seemed to be meeting and getting married and falling in love. I was getting a divorce and about to embark on a journey as a single mother with 2 children. Then, a family therapist. I thought I needed a family therapist to help me deal with the divorce. I began to see her, and she was very well-educated, very strong-willed. She was also single. She was a lot older than me. She was just beautiful. And I was just like, yeah, that's right. That's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be just like her. And I was in therapy with this woman for about 1.5 years, where this woman basically sold me the whole women's rights, you could do it, you don't need a man, and I bought into every single bit of it, all of it. After that, she began to show me how to date, and I thought it was a good idea. Basically, I never dated. I married my high school sweetheart, and I got married, and I was married for the last 8 years, and I came out and I was just like, yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Go ahead and show me how to date, like what's happening, what do people do, how do people meet? So she explained a lot of things to me. So I took a step forward and I took her suggestion and I began to date a man who was also divorced and had kids. So it seemed as though life was kind of taking a step forward. As life would turn out, life knocked me back 100 steps back. My daughter was 3 years old and she began to have flu-like symptoms. Took her to the doctor, it was flu season, gave me medicine, sent me home. 2 weeks later, she didn't get better, went back to the doctor. They told me I needed to give the medicine time, sent me back home again. 3rd time, my daughter couldn't walk. This was only 3 weeks later after I had seen my sister, or excuse me, seen the doctor. So I went back to the doctor and she told me, well, it's growing pains. Finally, I told her, just give me a referral, I need to see a specialist. She changed her mind and decided to run some blood tests. February 8, 2005, a day I'll never forget, as I received news of her results over the phone. Acute lymphocytic leukemia. I stood there in delay as my mind tried to register what that meant exactly. And I said, cancer? And the other side of the phone said, yes, of the blood. I dropped to my knees. I began to cry. I was home alone with my daughter. My son was still in school. Daughter was 3 years old, just looking at me, trying to make me feel better, not understanding what was happening. Within minutes, my friend was at my door responding to the emergency card contact that the doctor had called, ready to take us to the hospital where they were waiting for us. And I said, waiting for us? What do you mean waiting for us? As it turns out, she had absolutely no defense cells whatsoever. Any virus, flu, any germ from school, she would have gotten sick and there would have been no way for her body to fight it. Again, I just went into like a spiral of like, is this happening? What do you mean? I don't understand. My friend took us to the doctor, to the hospital, where she was subsequently hospitalized for 28 days straight. Back at home, my son bore it all in silence. Never complained. Never complained that he never saw me, basically, because I was always at the hospital. It was there in the hospital room at night where I would sit and stare at a statue of our Blessed Mother. She's right there. I don't know if you guys can see her. It was this statue that I would sit there and wonder about. If you've ever been in a hospital, try to sleep there. You know, they try to turn off all the lights, but you can't really sleep. I was just one of those parents. I didn't have a private room. Where's Kelsey? Like Sharp does. It was at Loma Linda, and you know, I had to share a room, and I would just stare at her, at our Blessed Mother, wondering, asking, are you seeing this? Are you real? Are you here? You see, I didn't have a relationship with the Virgin Mary, let alone with God. They were mere acquaintances in my life. I had no idea how to pray really, how to talk to God, let alone our Blessed Mother. So after about 5 bone marrow biopsies, numerous blood and plasma transfusions, she was sent home. When I was told that my daughter would have to go 1 year of intense chemotherapy and 2 years of maintenance therapy, I made the drastic decision to quit my job and stay home with her. I cashed out my savings that I'd been saving since I started working since the age of 17, finalized the property on my divorce, and I just decided to stay home with my daughter. During this time, my body would go into random anxiety attacks. The doctor was saying that I was absorbing all of the stress, that I wasn't dealing with it, I was ignoring it, so I ignored him. So he wanted to get me on antidepressants, and he prescribed Prozac, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken. I tried it once, and I felt like this numbing feeling coming over me, and I just said, no, I don't want that. I don't like that. So instead, I joined the team in training with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. With the help of peers and friends, I was able to help raise money to find a cure for leukemia. And since I wasn't a runner, it was excruciating training. I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't fun. And I see Nicholas over here because he's like the running coach for CYAS. Yeah, I didn't like running. at all. It hurt. But I did it. I did the training, and then it came time to run the marathon, 26.2 miles. And I swelled up like a balloon. All of my joints were swollen. I couldn't really breathe. I already had a heart murmur to begin with, so they said your heart would have to work extra hard to just maintain. It just wasn't fun. I almost thought about bringing a picture of the marathon picture here, but you would never see me the same. So, all I could do during the entire marathon was pray 2 prayers that I knew. That's all I knew. The Our Father and the Hail Mary. At that time, I didn't even know how to pray a rosary. The entire time I was struggling, wanting to quit, seeing people go off the path and go to McDonald's. I really wanted to do that. I just said no. I said, you endure this pain, you go through it. And the entire time I was bargaining for my daughter's life. See, I knew nothing about offering up prayer. This also helped with my feelings of feeling helpless, to not being able to protect your child, of the unknown, the not having control. We always want that, don't we? We want to be able to plan our future. We want to be able to control what's going to happen. We always want to be able to have the choices to make. At this point, I had none. I had no idea what was going to happen with my daughter. So the day came, I ran, and I survived it. 7 hours it took me. Soon after that, I began to date a young man. Well, actually, it was the same young man from the beginning of my story. The man that I started to date after the therapist helped me find a relationship, he decided to start dating another woman who was married. So throughout this entire time, I was just feeling like this is what I deserved because I got divorced. This was what I caused. I caused so many people pain, so now I was being punished. So after her intense chemotherapy ended, after about a year, her maintenance program began, and her oncologist knew that I had no family in the area. Everybody lived about 2 hours away, so he encouraged me to petition the family courts to move to San Diego, where I had family. So I moved to San Diego in about 2007, almost at the end of my wits. You see, in order for me to petition to move to San Diego with my children, I had to be able to compromise and prove that I can provide for them in San Diego. Being that I had already given up everything when my daughter got sick, I was at a loss. So I had to give up my children for a year so that I can prove that I can care for them in San Diego. This about brought me to the lowest point of my life. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a house. I didn't have income. I didn't have savings. I gave up everything, and now I have to give up my kids. I can tell you that hanging by a thread is an understatement of what I was feeling at that time. Very shortly after arriving to San Diego, a family friend introduced me to a young man, and we began to date, and very quickly, after a few short months, we got engaged. Again, this relationship wasn't chaste, and after a while he said, well, let's move in together, I can help you out, you're in a really bad situation. And I said, wow, my knight in shining armor. I jumped on it. So there it seemed like I was in San Diego, turning a new leaf. I had a year to get my act together, to get my kids back, get a job. I was engaged. Okay, all right, I'm on the right track. We're doing this, we're doing this. It seemed like hope was manifesting itself in my life with a chance for new beginnings once again. And I was happy to put it all behind me. So after finding a job and getting medical insurance, I immediately went to the doctor to get my annual exam, and they called me in. And when they called me in, they told me that my test results came back abnormal. Cancerous cells were found in my cervix. The beginning stages of cervical cancer, HPV to be exact, human papillomavirus. As I stood stunned and shocked, the kind doctors and his staff calmly tried to explain to me that there was nothing I could have done. It simply happens by being sexually active. Condoms don't prevent it, and there's no test to determine if a man has it. So what is HPV? It's an infection, and all this information you can find at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So these are all just quick cut and paste that I took out of there, but you guys can feel free to research it some more. HPV is so common that nearly all sexual active men and women get it at some point in their lives. How is it spread? Anyone who is sexually active can get HPV, even if you've had sex with only one person. How do I know if I have it? There is no test to find out a person's HPV status. Also, there is no approved HPV test to find HPV in the mouth or throat. How can I avoid HPV and the health problems it can cause? This is the real kicker. If you have been sexually active, or if you are sexually active, use latex condoms the right way every time you have sex. This can simply lower your chances. But HPV can infect the areas that are not covered by a condom. So condoms may not give full protection against HPV. And they suggest be in a mutually monogamous relationship or have sex only with someone who has sex with you. Now back to the doctor's office. Fear wanted to consume me, eat me up alive. Anxiety was toying with me, wanting to physically break me down. I couldn't bring myself to tell my children, nor to let them know that anything is wrong. My son found out last year, and my daughter found out 2 weeks ago. In fact, I only told my immediate family. It seems like I've been tormenting my poor parents since I was born. They tried hard to hide their fear and concern, but instead I did what I knew best. Ignore it, numbness, hardness. I refused to face it, pushed it down, packed it down. I refused to accept this. But it wasn't just my cancer that I was pushing down. I was pushing down the pain of the divorce that I caused, the pain I caused my children, my financial state, all of it. I compacted it into a thick, hardened crust around my heart and around my head. Nothing was going to get in. The man I was engaged to no longer wanted to help me out. As it turns out, he was in a much dire situation than he had let on, and apparently had some trouble with the law. Needless to say, I ended the relationship and cut off all contact with him. It was all for the best. My kids were due to come in about a year. Excuse me, in a few short months. My darkness and desolation just worsened. You see, somehow I missed the fact that God was trying to break through my deafness and my blindness. I missed the fact that God was all love. I missed the fact that God was all merciful and forgiving. I missed the fact that God was jealous for me and was calling me back. Yes, sadly, I couldn't bring myself to love God with all of my heart, even as he successfully carried me through the treatments like a princess in his arms. I struggled with feelings of guilt, shame, and unworthiness. I felt like I didn't deserve the love I once longed for as a young girl. Yeah, it would seem that I still would not recognize the value and worth that God had given me. For I was still allowing my emotional wounds to keep me spiritually broken and separated from God. I would go on dates without any intention of marriage. I would go on dates with a hardened heart, surviving on mere breadcrumbs, starving myself of truth to the point of sickness, walking in a fog. Couldn't feel a thing. I couldn't stop hating myself. I hated myself so much. The thought of marriage almost disgusted me. I couldn't show love in my home with my children. All I could give them for love were my responsibilities as a mother. Food, water, roof over your head. There was no laughter. There was no peace. There was just emptiness. So a few years passed, still fallen and broken, that I began to date once again. That same old pattern resurfaced. I was good at it this time. I knew how to handle the situation. I could tell this relationship was merely physical and he really didn't care about me. And can you guess what went through my mind? Perfect. I don't want to feel anything for you.